Stuck in a love triangle at 26, I'm drowning under the weight of parenting and a dead-end relationship with Jerry, who says I'm perfect. Meanwhile, my heart races for Carl, who knows exactly what I deserve. You can do so much better, I tell myself, but how do I break free? This situation requires a lot of background information. Let us refer to my boyfriend as Jerry, 26 years old, and our mutual friend as Carl, 33 years old. The father of my child, Robert, 34 years old, will be involved in this story. My daughter, Sophia, is nearly 4 years old. This is quite lengthy, so here is a summary. Jerry and I started our relationship too quickly after I left the abusive Robert. We have now been together for 3.5 years. Robert has changed and is now a great co-parent, but he works out of town and I only have Jerry and Jerry's mother for childcare. I work irregular hours, earn significantly more money, and manage our entire life. I feel overwhelmed. Jerry is only good at loving Sophia, but he quickly gets angry during parenting. I ignored every red flag because my only standard was that he was not abusive. Now, however, his personality has almost disappeared, a state that has persisted for a year. I have repeatedly asked how I can help, if it is depression, etc., but I receive no answers. His personality feels like a brick wall, and he contributes nothing beyond 30% of the income and being a decent stepfather. I have been friends with Carl for 4 years and have recently developed feelings for him. However, I do not truly anticipate this going anywhere, even if I were single. This experience made me realize I deserve more than just someone who is not abusive. I deserve to have effort invested in me, yet I feel stuck and uncertain about how to navigate from here. The real story begins now. I have always dated older men, for better or worse, starting at the age of 17. Jerry is the first man I have been with who is my own age. My relationship with Robert was very emotionally manipulative, mainly due to his drug use. I was 21 when I became pregnant soon after we began our relationship, completely naive and unaware of how severe the situation was until a few months into my pregnancy. I essentially left as soon as I recovered from my cesarean section. If I had not gotten pregnant, I do not believe our relationship would have lasted more than a few months. Robert and I loathed each other for about a year, which made co-parenting very challenging. However, when Sophia was approximately 18 months old, things started to improve. Now we are good friends. He has been sober for 2 years and is a very active and loving father. We share custody 50-50. I began talking to Jerry very soon after leaving Robert. He was a coworker, and I had known him for about a year by that point, but he never flirted or crossed any boundaries while I was with Robert. Once I returned from maternity leave, we became closer friends, and a mutual friend informed me that he had feelings for me and that I should discuss my expectations about where things might lead. I took Jerry out to my car after work and was very straightforward and honest with him. Paraphrasing, I essentially stated, "I know you have feelings for me and I sense that I feel something for you as well. However, I need you to understand that my life is crazy right now. I'm a new mother with Sophia being just 4 months old. I'm a new single mother covering everything financially on my own. I returned to work 3 weeks after giving birth to support us. Robert is hostile towards me and I will likely need to take him to court. I truly do not believe I should enter into a relationship at this moment. We can remain strictly friends, see where this could lead over time, or we can terminate everything and just be coworkers. It is your choice." Jerry expressed that he would love to wait and see where this might go. I was astounded, as I thought he should be running in the opposite direction. I could not believe that someone wanted me, as I thought I would never find love again after becoming a single mother at a young age before achieving any of my dreams. Foolishly, we continued our conversations, and by the time my daughter was 7 months old, we officially became a couple. Robert despised this situation and consistently attempted to make our lives difficult, but we persevered. As for Jerry's background, he was 23, living with his mother who had not worked since he was a child, along with 4 roommates. Their house was filthy and their animals were neglected. He did not possess a driver's license, despite living in an area where walking was impractical. He had not had a girlfriend since breaking up with his first love at 18. These are all red flags in hindsight, but I thought he was a kind, lovable, and misunderstood individual whose family was holding him back. While that is still somewhat accurate, he showed no desire to change his situation until we became a couple. At that time, I found myself in an emotionally vulnerable state after enduring an extremely traumatizing year and a half with Robert, coupled with a very traumatic birth and postpartum experience. However, I was now genuinely managing well and taking care of both myself and Sophia alone, and I felt accomplished. Jerry was willing to wait for me, attending to my needs consistently, never arguing, agreeing with everything I said, and loving Sophia from the moment he met her. We went on dates and concerts, enjoyed many fun activities both with Sophia and without her when Robert took care of her. Within less than a year, we moved in together. Everything continued in the same positive vein. I was amazed that someone never argued with me, was not controlling, allowed me the freedom to hang out with my friends whenever I wanted, and wanted to be an involved part of my daughter's life. I did have to teach him how to drive, how to put bills in his name, and various other adulting skills, but he was managing adequately. Now we introduce Carl into the story. Carl was both Jerry's and my boss. On my very first day at my job, years before the current situation and before I became pregnant, I felt an instant connection with Carl. I mean, it was instant. We shared all the same interests, enjoyed the same music, and had an identical sense of humor. I looked forward to shifts with him because we laughed so hard that tears streamed down our faces every time. However, that was all it was. Carl was also decent friends with Jerry, although company policy prohibited us from socializing with a boss outside of work hours. Fast forward about a year and a half after Jerry and I moved in together. I am on good terms with Robert now. He is sober and we get along. He even becomes friends with Jerry, which I never anticipated. Jerry now acts like a second father to my daughter. She loves him dearly and cannot remember a time without him. Our relationship has lasted about 2.5 years at this stage. However, Jerry's work performance declines. He becomes one of the worst employees and everyone asks me what is wrong. I do not have an answer. I attempt to talk to him daily about what is troubling him, whether it's depression or something I have done, but I cannot get anywhere with it. I have mentioned several times that perhaps this life with me paying bills and parenting may not be what he signed up for, given that he started adulthood late. I suggested that maybe he did not need this to be his first experience living independently. I lived alone with Sophia for a year and by myself for 2 years before having Sophia. I have been independent since the age of 19. I mentioned that perhaps he needed a chance to experience his early 20s differently before committing to this life. He vigorously insists that this is not the problem, saying, "I would never leave you no matter what you did." Looking back, that was a red flag in itself. By this time, Carl had left our job for another position. We have remained friends throughout, spending time with him outside of work on several occasions since he is no longer our boss. We have a group chat that we have contributed to for months. Eventually, Jerry stops responding. He continues to read everything but shifts the dynamic to just Carl and me talking back and forth. Eventually, we transition to private texting. Jerry is aware of this but knows it is nothing suspicious and is fine with it. Jerry eventually leaves his job with me and starts working with Carl at his new job. They can be friends there, so our collective friendship remains unchanged. Jerry still does not respond to the group chat. Although Jerry and Carl remain friends, they only interact at work since Jerry ceases communicating with anyone outside of work. Still, Carl and I text constantly. At this point, it's nothing more than discussing music, television shows, work, and life. From the moment Jerry's work ethic starts declining and he changes jobs, taking a pay cut, mind you, everything seems to shift. Sophia is now in her terrible twos and is difficult to parent. Jerry transforms from a loving, doting stepfather into someone who is constantly annoyed by her. Yes, children can be annoying, especially at this age, but he is perpetually irritated. I stop being the one to plan dates and outings, resulting in us not going on any. He stops helping with chores, halting involvement altogether. If I do not plan something or express my anger about it, it simply does not happen. We cease being intimate. The only effort he makes towards private time is to half-heartedly grab my entire body in the middle of the night while I am trying to sleep, or to push up against me in the morning when I have only an hour before work. During the ideal times, he remains distant and indifferent towards me, merely staying on his computer without engaging with me. During this time, I increasingly converse with Carl. I believe this is when I began developing feelings for him, although I did not fully comprehend it in the moment. I was entirely in denial. We never crossed any lines, flirted, or anything of the sort. We simply talked, all the time, about anything and everything. Jerry and I experience a few decent months together. Although it does not feel like it used to, I convince myself I have become too occupied and wrapped up in life to feel too upset about our situation. I just exist on autopilot. We go on a couple of trips and have fun, but no spark reignites. It feels like traveling with a platonic best friend. He continues to neglect improvement in the areas where he is lacking in daily life. We host a small gathering of friends on Christmas Eve, since Sophia will be at Robert's until Christmas morning. Jerry barely looks at me the whole time, which is acceptable as I also hardly look at him. We engage with all our friends and enjoy our time together. We all play a board game, and during the turns, Carl and I engage in some deep conversations about our lives. The alcohol makes us a bit emotional as we discuss our experiences. Jerry remains oblivious, chatting with others. When it is Carl's turn, we do not realize for a full 2 minutes that it is time for him to play. I eventually notice how close I am to his face, how intensely he is looking into my eyes, and how deeply engaged we have become in conversation. I glance around the group and see that everyone is staring at us, noticing how our cheeks flush. I make eye contact with a friend who seems to give me a knowing look. Carl laughs and apologizes, stating that we were trauma dumping. Everyone laughs, including Jerry, who seems to overlook the moment entirely. For me, however, I believe this is when I realize I have feelings for Carl. Thankfully, nobody in the room ever mentions that moment again. I attempt to suppress and ignore these feelings. We continue to text as usual, but nothing notable occurs. He remains friends with Jerry and they chat at work every day. We move through phases of not speaking for a few weeks, then one of us initiates a conversation and we resume as before but nothing more. This pattern persists for months. One day, a group of work acquaintances decides to go out to a bar. Since it is the weekend, Sophia is with Robert. I call Jerry to see if he wants to join, but he expresses that he is tired and would prefer to go home and play video games instead, although he encourages me to go. This isn't unusual. He knows all my work friends and the group is a diverse mix of men and women. There is no reason for distrust. Upon my arrival, I find Carl there. It is the first time he has seen most of the group since he switched jobs about a year ago. Everyone is thrilled to see him. About 7 of us end up sitting in a circle in the parking lot long after the bars have closed, talking until 5 a.m. I offer a friend a ride home at the end of the night and she mentions, "Babe, I can see the sparkle in your eye when you look at my friend. I am 99% sure it's mutual too." I don't know what you're going to do about that, but I wanted to let you know. Carl and I hardly chat the following week. The week after that, Robert shares the news that he has received an outstanding job opportunity, but it involves working out of town for half the year. I encourage him to accept it and I will figure out the childcare situation. I predominantly work evenings and weekends, earning great money, and relocating to a day job during daycare hours would likely mean a pay cut. To assist, Jerry offers to adjust his work schedule on some days while his mother offers to help on the others. My family and Robert's family are virtually non-existent in supporting me, so they are not options. It has been about 6 months since these changes took place. My relationship with Jerry has absolutely deteriorated. I suppose it is the stress of constant parenting. However, all the issues I previously had with him seem to magnify a million times worse. Over the course of a year, throughout our 3-year relationship, he has never once acknowledged or admitted to feeling depressed, anxious, or any mental health issue. Furthermore, he has not recognized anything I have done wrong or suggested ways I can help or do things differently. I try to discuss everything with him at least 2 or 3 times each month. During every conversation, I feel as though I am speaking to a wall, receiving no more than "I don't know" as a response, or else he cries, lamenting that he is terrible, the worst person, and that I deserve so much better, claiming I should hate him. It's the most pathetic display I have ever seen. Nothing changes, improves, or gets resolved. I always ask multiple times whether he has issues with me in any capacity, urging him to tell me now. He consistently responds, "No, you're perfect, you can do nothing wrong." At this point, that's a turnoff for me. Of course, I can do things incorrectly. I likely do all the time. Talk to me. It has become incredibly frustrating. Without Robert around, I truly lack any breaks and feel completely overwhelmed. I recognize my privilege and luck in having ever experienced a break by sharing custody with Robert. However, I still feel as though I am drowning now. I work more hours than Jerry, longer hours, and earn literally double what he does. Additionally, I have a second job coaching high school softball, which keeps me exceedingly busy. I am solely responsible for cleaning the house, purchasing groceries, and running errands, with most of the bills in my name. I manage all appointments, schedules, and the entirety of our lives. At this point, I have no one else to assist with childcare. I am a bartender earning between 25 to 50 an hour in tips, and I am also re-enrolling in college online for the upcoming fall semester. I cannot afford to receive 15 to 17 an hour, which is what I would earn in a day job without a degree, plus pay for childcare and 70% of our bills in our very expensive living area. If we were to break up, I would be responsible for all the bills. Rent is at the lower end for my area, making it exceedingly difficult to cut costs. I could consider moving back home with my family, but they live an hour away and lack available space. I would be ineligible for assisted housing even if I switch jobs, because eligibility is based on last year's income, with me having earned too much as a bartender. Do people live in my area as single parents on lower salaries? Absolutely. However, I have been earning this amount for 5 years and have not made less since having a child, leaving me unsure how to begin reducing bills and modifying my entire lifestyle. I could ask Robert for financial assistance, but he already pays child support, and I would feel uncomfortable requesting help with anything other than daycare expenses. Moreover, I regret entering into a relationship so quickly after having a newborn. Although Sophia adores Jerry, he often seems burdened by her. She simply desires for him to play with her continuously, and it truly breaks my heart. I feel like the scenario is more complicated than if he were her biological father. Robert and I healed, figured out co-parenting, and established a friendship. If Jerry and I were to separate, he would not be legally entitled to shared custody or anything along those lines. If I were ever to enter another relationship after this, I would wait at least a year before introducing a partner to my child and would not consider moving in with anyone until at least 2 or 3 years later. Yet I digress, you live and learn. Additionally, I feel guilty for relying on Jerry and his mother for childcare. Yes, they love her as if she were their own, but it would feel extremely disheartening to leave and say, "Thank you for all your support, goodbye." I would feel awful for Sophia and Jerry after forming such a strong bond over the past couple of years. While she may not be old enough to be deeply affected, it still weighs heavily on my conscience. Currently, we are 3.5 years into our relationship. For the past year, I have been unhappy regarding the same issues. However, only in the last 3 months have I even considered breaking up with him as an option. Even still, it feels as though it is not a genuine alternative. I feel incredibly trapped. Above all, I am not happy. Another point worth noting is that he is not unkind to me. He is neither emotionally abusive nor manipulative or controlling. He does not treat me poorly. He simply does nothing. It has taken me this long, alongside considerable healing, to realize that merely being non-abusive is not enough for a fulfilling relationship. My standards were set very low upon entering this relationship. I have come to understand that I need more than the bare minimum of not being abusive in order to find happiness. Who would have thought right? As for Carl, our conversation has been on again and off again over the last 6 months, strictly as friends. I hardly see him in person anymore. When I do, that unspoken connection is still palpable, but we rarely come together. One day we engage in a profound text exchange, during which he opens up to me about a girl he talked to 2 years ago, the details of which he had never shared with anyone. We all knew it had occurred, but not how it concluded. It was a messy situationship, largely on her part. She eventually returned to her ex. I explained to him that while she treated him poorly, I understand her perspective. She had an entire life built with a person, and that other man was a stepfather to her child. Leaving him for Carl would upend everything for her. He recognizes and expresses appreciation for my insights, mentioning that he had not fully put himself in her shoes until now. I confide that I empathize with her position because I feel similarly unhappy in many aspects, yet feeling unable to leave due to our shared life. I apologize for sharing this sentiment, knowing that he is friends with Jerry. He assures me, "No, I understand." The lack of effort he has been making in his own life is evident, making me ponder how he can expect to feel fulfilled under such conditions. He then casually mentions that I should know Andre, another employee at their job, is planning to steal me if Jerry and I part ways. We both share a laugh, knowing that Andre stands no chance whatsoever. We go back and forth joking about how Andre needs to lower his standards, given his arrogant personality and lack of anything to offer. I remark, "Yeah, I will never again chance a man with a history of inconsistency or laziness." Carl then confesses, "I cannot lie, I used to share the same mindset as Andre. I was totally ready to take a shot at you if the opportunity ever arose because I know I have my life together and would genuinely have a chance." He adds this with some laughter and a hint of levity, which causes my heart to momentarily stop in both dread and unexpectedly pleasant ways. This confirms my suspicions that feelings may very well be mutual. To clarify, Carl indeed has his life together. He ended a long-term relationship a few years ago mutually with no hard feelings. He had that situationship we discussed along with a few other dates, but he appears quite content being single, not actively going out to chase women or sleep around. He owns his own home, earns a great salary with excellent benefits as a general manager at a high-end restaurant, and has stocks with substantial savings. He frequently vacations alone. Frankly, he has it all figured out well for himself. He is not exceptionally attractive, but he is not unattractive, and honestly, I do not prioritize looks. Chemistry and personality are what matter to me. He genuinely possesses many qualities that make him quite appealing. Since that day about a month ago, we have been frequently texting, stopping just a few days ago. We still have never truly flirted, never once engaged in flirtation over text, and only occasionally exhibited playful teasing behavior around friends in person. The connection remains ever present, and the chemistry is almost tangible when we are together, though we have not acted on it. I resolved to refrain from contacting him for a while because I do not wish to risk crossing any boundaries until I have figured my life out. He is not blocked, but I haven't spoken to him in 4 days. I informed him that I have a lot on my plate and plan to refrain from messaging for a while, leaving it at that. Regarding the potential situation with Carl, let's say I hypothetically break up with Jerry tomorrow, figure out my life with Sophia and how to pay for everything and manage childcare, and Carl approaches me with a date proposition. I would respond genuinely the same way I told Jerry years ago. However, I would firmly maintain my explanation that life is too overwhelming for a relationship at this time. I would suggest he ask again once my life stabilizes and I have had time to heal. This could take years, so I would advise him not to wait but still express my desire to remain friends, just nothing more for now. Ultimately, all of this has opened my eyes to the realization that I truly do deserve better. Someone who has their life together, someone consistent and reliable, a good individual whom I know well because we have been friends for quite some time, is perfectly capable of wanting me. Initially, I was enamored with Jerry since I never thought anyone would want me unless they intended to manipulate and control me as Robert did when he was not sober. I let go of all standards and entirely overlooked red flags and inconsistencies because I believed he possessed too kind a heart to intentionally hurt me. While that remains accurate, he has a genuinely kind soul. I also think he is too, I don't know, stubborn, oblivious, indolent, depressed, and resistant to seeking help. I truly do not know what label to assign to him. However, he is too whatever he is to recognize that he is inadvertently causing me significant distress by putting forth so little effort. A friend of mine once asked him if we were okay because I did not seem very happy, and he informed them, "I don't know what you mean, everything is perfect." Uh. Here I find myself coming to the realization that I could have so much more. At this point, I would rather be alone. However, Sophia complicates everything. I still have genuine affection for Jerry, and I am aware that if I decide to end our relationship, it would likely plunge him deeper into despair, leaving me uncertain of what he might do. I love him like a best friend. While I am no longer in love with him, I still have a significant amount of care for him and do not wish to witness him suffer. He may very well end up moving back in with his mother and abandon any incentive to improve his life, job situation, or progress in any meaningful way at all. He was not proactive before I came into the picture or during our time together unless I held his hand and guided him. Yet I still despise the thought of sending him into whatever darkness he is experiencing. Moreover, we planned a concert 8 months ago involving myself, Carl, and Jerry. Carl organized it and stated, "I don't mind being the third wheel, you two are my only friends who enjoy this band, and it is coming up in 2 weeks. I am extremely apprehensive about being around both of them simultaneously over the course of 2 days." This was arranged before I acknowledged my feelings for Carl and before Jerry and I reached this challenging state. So here I am. I feel as though I am facing obstacles from every angle. I am not seeking much other than guidance on how to navigate this situation from here.